Hey, podcast listener, even if you are alone in your entrepreneurial journey, know that today, right now in your earbuds, you are joined by thousands of entrepreneurs from all around the globe seeking to grow better, more profitable, location-independent businesses. If you'd like to learn more about what we do and download our entire back catalog, check out TropicalMBA.com. Yeah, buddy, happy Thursday morning. It's the Tropical MBA podcast. This week we're at tropicalmba.com/why. I am joined again by my good friend Damian Thompson from linchpin.net. Your last episode on productized services absolutely blew up. You inspired so many people to go out and start businesses, to change their business model, to turn from consultants into product people. Congratulations, good sir.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Don't call it a comeback. I'm back. So,
all right. This week we have been challenged by our friend Erik Emsley. He said something that really resonated with me. He said, "You know what? My family does not understand what I'm doing, and I have trouble explaining it to them. Can you help me explain to my family what the heck I'm doing?" And I thought that's kind of a cool idea because we've both been through this, trying to explain to loved ones what we're doing. And we're going to talk about the fundamental beliefs that we have, why that can cause big time conflicts and misunderstandings, and maybe what to do about it.
Sounds good.
All right. So first, I want to get into some news. We are hiring. So if you want to come work for my team, help me out with Dynamite Circle and with Tropical MBA podcast and blog and everything, I'd love to hear from you. TropicalMBA.com/why. That's the last I'm going to say about that. You've got 2 days. So, also the reaction to last week's podcast. Have you listened? You listened?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So we put up a survey for the ballers in our community. They came through strong. It's definitely going to happen. It's going to be in May. I'm not going to go on about the details. You look like a happy guy. That's
super happy about DC Black. Or did I let the cat in the bag? Whoops.
Wow, it's a scoop.
Nice.
Wow.
Here first, campers.
Hey, I got an iTunes review. Oh, by the way, if you want to fill out that survey, if you're interested, if you have a 500K business or 100K net income with process people in place, the 2 Ps, tropicalmba.com/why, fill out the survey. I will let you know next week what is going on with that. It's going to happen. It's going to be the idea to get people that are focused on bringing this movement forward. You know, I was listening to some dance rock today. I was listening to Passion Pit in the car today, and I was thinking, I saw this coming 5 years ago, but I didn't do anything about it. You know, I was in a band that failed miserably. But with this whole digital nomad thing, we see it, man. We see what's the next 5 years is gonna look like. And I wanna get a group of people together that wanna help define that next 5 years. Not just people that have money, but people that wanna be a part of the movement and help to define the way forward.
I agree. And you're still a rock star. You just don't have an instrument anymore. So, easier access to your audience.
Silver Sky says this podcast is the Bitcoin of business podcasts. I think that means it's
overvalued, hyped, crazy,
volatile, shady as well.
Nice. You can buy drugs with the podcast.
I found this podcast a few months ago when looking for things to listen to on long haul flights. After listening a few times, I was hooked. I'm already an established entrepreneur, but I still get great ideas from Dan, Ian, and their guests. So thank you so much for the iTunes review. You know, Damian, when we left the Lifestyle Business Podcast brand behind, we lost over 400 5-star reviews. It was sad, but this is like fuel for me. It's great going in there and seeing people review the show in iTunes and on Stitcher. So Damian, you ready to get into the heart of this week's episode?
I'm ready to go.
An homage to Joe and Justin.
For some reason, I was thinking there's something like John Lee Dumas. Are you ready to ignite? I'm ready to light this bitch up.
Play that classy bass walk. All right, Damian, this is something that I didn't tell you about while we were preparing this episode. I recently got a letter from my friend Matt Bieber, actually my childhood best buddy. Never understood what I was doing. You know, I would come home and I'd be like, man, I'm traveling, I'm doing this business thing. And he always just thought I was full of crap. And he went to Harvard, he went to Princeton, he worked for D.E. Shaw, like, you know, just like, what's with my Yahoo buddy with the websites and with the coconuts?
Flip-flops and coconuts.
Just wasn't into it, man. And he came out to Christmas this year, Ho Chi Minh City, and sent me this basically a post talking about his experience. So I'm just going to read it to you, and then we're going to launch into this whole family, friends, understanding thing. For the first couple of years I heard Dan talk about DC, I thought it was BS. I grew up with the guy and I knew he could get carried away. More than that, that's an understatement. The whole thing sounded like a group of people working the same long hours as their domestic office-bound counterparts and consoling themselves with the romanticism of living abroad. There is some of that, for sure. It is romantic, and it is...
And you can work harder. I work harder now than I did when I worked for someone else.
Yeah. A bunch of internet marketers who'd gotten themselves addicted to the storyline about how they were different. And then I came to Saigon, and I met a bunch of DCers. This came at a pivotal moment for me. I just quit my job teaching to focus on freelance writing, and I was terrified. I'd come to the conclusion that my life wasn't built for anything else and that I had to try this, but I had no idea how to make it work. In other words, finally he wants to do his own thing, despite the fact that he can pretty much do anybody else's thing he wants because he's got those credentials. I shared a bit of my situation with Dan's crew, but I didn't elaborate much. I didn't want to dump my anxieties on a bunch of people I had just met. Amazingly, though, they probed. What kind of writing was I doing? Where was I publishing? Did I have a mailing list, etc., etc.? Most people would respond with a kind of mixture of vague sympathy or generic encouragement, if they encourage at all. Oh, that sounds tough, or you'll get there. The DCers, however, or digital, I think this is broader entrepreneurs. Sure. He's pumping up the DC a little bit, but the DCers were different. They didn't treat my fears as boundaries to some psychological no man's land. Instead, they marched right across and extended a hand into my trench. Nate Ginsberg, in particular, Pinterest expert. If you have any Pinterest traffic requirements, do get in touch with me about Nate Ginsberg. This guy's a boss.
Only player to do worse than me in the basketball tournament.
Spent an entire Christmas party talking me through each of my forms of resistance. I don't have a particular skill. I don't have enough stamina. I don't have the stomach for marketing, etc., etc. He was incredibly helpful. And I realized that this is what's so different about the DC. It doesn't matter so much if these folks sometimes still have to work that resembles what they left behind in the cubicle. And it isn't just that they're in Saigon, Hong Kong, or Bali that makes everything better. It's that these people have chosen to be in these places and they're working on their own terms. There's a sense of ownership over what they do, an unironic embrace of their wants, desires, and curiosity. This was new for me. In the conventional working world, almost everyone I met operates with a vague sense of oppression. Now, this is interesting to kind of see somebody at the moment of conversion, because this is the kind of attitude that will be problematic for someone like me because it makes me look like a condescending jerk. And maybe I am. But it's interesting to see a guy like Matt kind of at the moment of like looking back and saying, wow, everybody seems oppressed. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the belief that's happening. No matter how much they like their jobs, no matter how much they've committed to their goals, it's still clear that they feel tossed around by larger forces, by the dictates of bosses, the shuddering movements of monolithic organizations, the tidal shifts of an economy at large. This guy can cut a sentence.
I'll tell you what, he's a writer, isn't he?
It feels to me like the DC was built to solve exactly this problem, the sense of anonymity and helplessness that comes with living in modern day economies. Yes, all of those forces are real, but work isn't just a matter of standing on the beach as a tsunami rolls in and steeling ourselves for impact. Stealing ourselves for impact. I've never heard that formulation before. It can be so, this is what you learn at Harvard, so much more than that if only we can rediscover our dignity, our agility, our courage and faith in ourselves. There's no better way to do that than spending time around people who've already done it. Matt Bieber from The Wheat and the Chaff.
Where's the buy now button? I'm buying it.
All right, I just wanted to share that with you because that's a personal moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my best friend from childhood basically saying, Dan's a bullshit artist. I didn't believe him. I didn't buy it. And I can be a little bit of a shill man, so I can shellac it on.
Yeah, well, and I think dreamer. I think I think we all are at some point. I mean, I don't think you follow this if you don't have some fundamental belief in something better or bigger, or belief in yourself. This is hard. This is a hard decision to make, to kind of go against society's norms.
Yes. So I guess let's talk about it then, what our beliefs are. And let's imagine that our friend Erik can take this podcast and send it back to his family members. Yeah. And maybe we can provide a little bit of, meat to the belief system of our tribe, of our movement, and help people to understand, help people like Matt to understand that it's not just us pumping ourselves up, but there's actually some fundamental beliefs at
It's
work
interesting
here.
too, you know, and I understand Erik's problem here. I've been making the calls back home. I mean, I got engaged. I've been calling all my friends and telling them about it.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Applause effect, by the way.
Nice. But, so I was calling a good friend of mine I grew up with. I mean, literally, you know, a kid I used to, you know, drink beer in the back of the pickup truck in high school with, and great guy. And I would call him like a more traditional entrepreneur. Like he rose up through the gym ranks, like a sales manager at gyms, and now he's actually launching like 3 or 4 box shops, you know, these little kind of 24-hour fitness centers. I mean, like building out. I mean, that's an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
So I'm talking to him on the phone, and he's like, I still have no idea what you do. I follow everything you write, but I have no idea what you do. And I was like, well, if he doesn't get it, then I'm doing a poor job of telling people what I do, aren't I? So, yeah.
Well, we do probably have some fundamental beliefs about the internet that we're not going to, well, we could maybe open some of those up. Let's talk about the first belief that we have. We believe that stability, security, and comfort come from a fundamentally different place than how we was raised.
Right. And I mean, I think it's pretty simple. I think that we think it comes from us, not from someone else. So job security, I'm shocked that anyone still uses those words together, and they do. I hear it. I hear, you know, I've heard people say, "Oh, well, you don't have health care." Like, you know, really, that's the reason. Like, I'm building something here. I'll buy my own health care. I don't need to go work at Walmart because they've got good health care, right? So that security, that confidence that I'm gonna take care of myself better than anyone else can. And this is funny too. You know, getting a little fundamental American here for a second, but you know, America has a lot of these core beliefs, this idea of, you know, like the rugged individual and pulling yourself up through the bootstraps and doing that kind of stuff. But yet they forget a lot of it. Like, no, go to school, get a degree, get a good job with a big company, work for 40 years.
One of the things you mentioned is that you believe security comes from having skills enough. Dave Ramsey says this, you know, you're only as secure as your ability to go out and drag it home every day. And I think one of the things that the traditional path can do is it can neuter you of those skills. We all know the person who had the same job for 25, 30 years, the secure job, something went wrong, and then they don't have the skills to go out and drag it home.
And they're blindsided.
That terrifies me.
Yeah, they're blindsided. They walked into work one day and half the people are boxing their stuff up. And they're, what's going on? Oh, we got bought out by some other company and they're they're closing down the plant.
Yes.
Right? So.
And it is difficult when you're in that situation to look at our community and say that we're not scared of those things. It feels good. It feels safe now people might say, yeah, you're a dreamer, you're delusional. Yes, I know bad things can happen, but I'm actually in the business of adjusting to bad things. Like, that's what my business does, is we adapt. When Walmart moves out of town, I don't lose my job. I move and follow it where it's going, all right?
I think that's important. You know, it's funny that we are weirdos, and especially I think the way the clear difference, I think people, the more traditional view of work and working for someone else, where they would be absolutely shocked at our behavior is if we hear someone decided not to finish university or someone is getting laid off from their job, we actually genuinely feel happy for them. Like, you know, like, I mean, like, oh, you've removed that decision from the decision matrix. Awesome. Now you know you got to go out and do your own thing, right? You've got to go. You're forced to make the decision you've been kind of wrestling with for a long time.
Number 2 core belief. We believe that we are on the path to real wealth. And by real wealth, I mean massive, like, you know, middle-aged to late part of your life, like great retirement, active income every year. We're increasing our chances of having those kinds of outcomes. And that's difficult when you haven't had that outcome yet, convincing others that you're on a legitimate path. And we might not be, some of us. And we, of course, have a lot of role models in our community of people that have found themselves at that real wealth. You know, Ian had this insight the other day that he shared with me about the most common buyers of medium-sized small businesses outside of private equity firms. It's ex-corporate managers who've sort of built up a little nest egg over the course of their entire career. So people in their 50s, 60s that they need income, right? Because it's hard to get income off from the stock market, or the interest rates of your savings account are over. And so why don't we buy a small business now for whatever, you know, our savings? And it's kind of a hard way to make an easy buck, or we're just cutting that whole middle process 30-year career out of it and going right for the small business right away.
And I'd be surprised if those failure rates weren't huge, because, you know, you were a successful insurance executive manager and now you're running a bar. Like, what do you know about running a bar? What do you know about running a hoagie shop? What do you know about, a roofing company? You don't know what you're doing, right? So yeah, you learn some skills, you learn how to do spreadsheets, but most small businesses don't run on spreadsheets, right?
Yeah.
They run on people and skill set and talent and a specific, business is business. Are you solving a problem? Are you delivering a good?
So when I think about like talking directly to Erik's family or whatever, it's like, if you're very successful in a traditional career, you're a doctor or you're this corporate guy or girl, you end up at the end of your life finding your way back to where we're starting.
Yes.
Which is, even if you put your money into the stock market, that stock market is then trying to find high growth small businesses, which is what Damian and I are trying to build, which is what your son is trying to build. We are trying to build high growth small assets.
I would say, even to me, the hardest thing for me to learn, coming from 15 years in corporate and doing the entrepreneurial thing finally, was unlearning some things. And I would say the one thing that I would definitely put our community above your average person would be how we deal with, manage, and view money. So when I made a ton of money, I spent a ton of money plus one. Right. So I never had money. I mean, I was making a lot of cash. I was spending it all because everyone around me was doing the exact same thing. In our community, it's the exact opposite. In our community, it's like, I'm not a minimalist. I have stuff. I like stuff. But I don't own a car that's brand new because my neighbor owns one that's 2 years old, or I'm not upgrading my suits. I'm much more practical with cash. I understand that cash is a tool to build future real wealth.
Yeah. And when people say back home, I have a job that pays me 120 grand. I made 120 grand last year. You're not going to catch anybody saying that in our community. No, you made however much money is in your bank account after you paid taxes, after all that. You probably 2K. Right. You probably made 2 grand.
You probably didn't, because you're probably 20 grand in credit card debt.
You probably have a mortgage.
Right.
All right. So this is a fundamental belief. Now we're getting into the condescending part of our lives. Fair enough. Yeah. Number 3, we're condescending assholes. No, number 3, we put huge value on our time. This is something, we're ambitiously lazy people. Me, I love my creative time. We talk about the interaction between time, income, and mobility. Most people just prostitute their time in order to maximize for that income right away. I don't believe that's a great strategy. So I think you're seeing a lot of people that just, they want to be the captain of their own ship. They want to define how they live their lives in terms of their time, and they're willing to sacrifice other things to get it.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting. I was reading something the other day, not about us, but our community, but more about some of the struggles in the Western world now, is that it comes from this manufacturing type, very much time. You go work on the shop floor, and you punch a clock, and you do your time, and you make enough money so you can buy your Model T Ford and that kind of thing. To the information economy, and when it moved to the information economy, it's no longer an equal distribution anymore. Right now, it's the people that have the higher degrees, or the people that have filled a skill set, engineering or math, the STEM guys, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. Like, they have almost an unfair advantage over other people because they've developed this specific skill set. And I think it's the same with us. Like, we cut out a lot of this stuff. We don't have a belief that just because we go work on the shop floor for 30 years, we're going to be able to retire with the gold watch. Like, we've seen that not happen enough to say, hey, I'm more willing to bet on myself than I am on that.
So, this time issue we could go on forever about that. Number 4, we want to be where we want to be in the world right now, forever and always. We demand that. This is like, when I think about the time issue, I looked at all the things I wanted to do with my life, and a lot of them weren't that expensive. A lot of them demanded a ton of time. Like, if you want to learn a new skill, or if you want to go live in a new country, that's not something that income's going to solve for. Especially the kind of income, maybe mega wealth could solve for that, but $100,000 in your bank account is not going to solve for, I want to live in China for 6 months, because you're going to screw up your career, right? Career is a volatile thing.
Well, and I think the magic word here is wealth versus salary, right? If you've got a salary, you're not going to China for a month because you've got to go into your office every day.
Are you familiar with the Rich Dad, Poor Dad? By the way, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you're having trouble understanding what we're doing, and you want to, if you're a parent or a family member or a girlfriend or a boyfriend listening to this, please do pick up Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I do think it's a mindset thing. And the way he defines wealth in that book is when your income off of the assets that you own is higher than your expenses. I love that. Like, that's wealth, and it might be $2,000 a month. But if you can sit there in your hammock, be ambitiously lazy, own all of your time, no career, no job, nothing, and $2,000 a month is coming your way, that's a sweet situation to be in. Then you can start taking control and moving it forward.
Well, I think that's a great framework too. It's that I think that we look at our businesses, because our businesses are generally just us at the beginning. We look at ourselves almost like a business. So we know that top line isn't that important. We know it's all the bottom line. So you can raise revenue or salary, whatever you want to call that. But if all of my expenses don't leave me anything at the bottom, I don't have wealth. I don't have assets I can invest.
I mean, we both have friends. I mean, we both have friends who probably are like, they make over $100,000 a year. They're stuck with that. They can't go anywhere because the 150 drops to the bottom. It goes away. Right. So they're thinking mortgage, they're thinking apartment complex, they're thinking all this kind of leverage, crazy stuff. And they're getting stressed out about what's going to happen in 20 years. 20 years, really? I mean, but if you look at that and you think that that's a situation you want to be in, I would look at the person who owns a portfolio of 15 websites, like the Empire Flippers guys. And those websites generate $2,000 to the bottom line every month. I think that's the fundamental thing. The people in our community look at that $2,000 and they look at the hammock and the month that's completely free.
Right.
And they say, yes.
Yeah.
Forget that $150,000 job. I want the $2,000, because if you have the month, you can turn it into 5. Right. You can turn it into 10. And then the hammock's going to turn into a double wide hammock with coconuts coming on the hour. You're going to be reading Kurt Vonnegut novels in the middle of Wednesday. I mean, this is what we're looking for, right? This is the dream.
Yeah, but I think it is a bit of a dream. I mean,
not for me.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, I agree with everything you said, except for you get that $2,000 a month by not sitting in a hammock reading Kurt Vonnegut all day, right? I mean, you're getting that because you're you're learning skills to build websites, or you're learning a skill to sell your skill to invest in the Empire Flipper stuff. So, but yes, the idea is though that they are real assets. You get to a point where it's bigger than just you, and your business is making it's generating revenue and income without you, and that's the magic thing, right? Like your salary, you can never replace you with your salary, right? If I don't go to work, if I tell my boss to F off, then that salary goes away. Yes. And if I can build a revenue stream, and I can build people and processes and teams around that revenue stream, then I can sit in the hammock and read Vonnegut all day long and not understand what I'm reading.
So the fourth point, to get back to it, is like we are demanding location independence. And when I think about my friends and my former self, I had to be in a spot like that's like, I mean, it's such a difference from this mindset of just saying no, never again will I be somewhere because some random institution demands that I be there. I'm going to be where I want to be forever and always. And if I have to take a short-term pay cut to do that, I sure as hell am, number one. And plus, it's putting me on the path to real wealth. So you can see why we get very religious about this stuff, right? And insistent right when we taste the Kool-Aid. Yeah,
so this is the one that I would double down on. So, I think that the kind of laying in the hammock is a little too far out there. The idea that you're building a skill set, you're building a job, building a company that you can do from anywhere, that's powerful to me. That's the thing that's one of my core beliefs. I mean, the idea of that there are no vacations anymore. There's no such thing as, there are vacations you take a vacation is you take some time off work.
Yeah.
It's not about where you go, because you go wherever you want to go, whenever you want to go.
Yes.
Like that is amazingly powerful to me. So I grew up, I think I talked last time, born in Spain, moved to Australia, parents moved to America. So we traveled a lot when I was a kid. But, then my dad got on the career path, my mom got on the career path, and we didn't really do that anymore, right? I mean, so they in their soul are really, they're vagabonds. They love doing that, right? They love doing the new country every 2 years, and that was awesome. They young kids, and it was still awesome. But then they got on that ladder and the ladder has to stay still. The ladder doesn't move, right?
Number 5, we specialize in specific types of content and inputs, and we sort of move away from more general societal information like news, gossip, educational standards. So in other words, we do get really tribal about this stuff. That's why we listen to these podcasts. Right. Because, when I was changing my life, I said no to CNN. I said no to Fox News. I said no to whatever election is happening. I said no to Super Bowl. I said no to whatever. All this kind of junk. I just don't care. I don't have a stake. I don't care about who won the Grammy Award. I just don't care. Because now there's information out there that I can put into my system that's going to allow me to change my life.
Yeah, I think this goes back to, I keep on thinking of, we run ourselves like little mini corporations. So it becomes, if time's an important asset, And my attention is a very important asset. Where am I going to invest my time and attention, right? Where am I going to take those raw natural, those raw resources and invest them in? Am I going to invest them in watching TMZ and finding out which celebrity got drunk and swung at a cameraman? Or am I going to learn a new skill that I can then sell to someone else and build real wealth? That's an easy decision to make every day.
So let's talk about 4 difficulties in relationships. So there are tensions because we have these core beliefs. There are tensions that come up. And the first tension is being a disappointment. So this is very interesting. I was a big disappointment to my family, and I know a lot of people in our communities were when we made the decision. And I continued to be somewhat of a disappointment for many years thereafter because my friends and family didn't understand what I was doing. And they did understand what I was doing previously. I was the vice president of operations of a small business, and it was a job, and they thought that was cool. They did not think it was cool that I was like blogging on the internet and I was trying to do my cat furniture thing, and they just didn't know what that was all about. And here's the problem with this is that if you stay in that corporate career, it's kind of like everybody's proud of you for something that's not something that you did. It's not your authentic self. If you have that desire to go travel, to be a writer, or whatever that is for you, whatever it is that your loved one is embarking on, it's a much nicer, it's a much better outcome to be proud of their true self. And I think that that's just it's so difficult being a disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, so this one really resonates. I mean, so I left this, high-level corporate job where my parents were proud of me and bragged about me to everyone, and they could point to that Fortune 500 company. Oh no, Damian doesn't work there anymore. He left because he got poached, and they doubled his salary, and things they understand. To, hey, I'm going to go work in some resort in the Philippines for 3 months. How much are you going to pay? Nothing. I'm just going to work for room and board to figure out what I want to do next. I mean, it sounds almost hippie-ish. Like I'm going to go find myself in my mid-30s. I mean, it sounds selfish, and they were super disappointed, and then I didn't make it home for Christmas for the first couple of years. I mean, so yeah, it's a hard thing. And I mean, I think that sometimes they don't realize that it is hard because it seems so selfish what we're doing. Like we're stopping this track that they understand, that they've kind of supported, they've kind of helped us, pushed us along, or have projected in their minds where we're going to go next and said, no, I'm going to make this about me. I want my true self. I want to be selfish, which I think we should be, but and I think that's really hard. I think they really struggle with that, I think.
Number 2, we are, in other words, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't think there was going to be the positive outcome. We didn't be doing it if we didn't think we were going to become wealthy, if we didn't think it was going to provide us with more stability, wasn't going to help us to travel and to be our more authentic self. So, that's hard to be confident about that in the face of all the disappointment. But it is nice when they're finally not disappointed.
Sure.
As my friends and family have been incredibly supportive. Once I think it was on me to make it legible and to make it work.
And make sure it wasn't a dream. And I'm a sales guy, so my parents have heard the big pie in the sky stories of what I'm going to do and what I'm going to buy and that kind of thing. So once I show them, then they'll be proud of me again. So.
Number 2 difficulty. We've become a little bit more mercenary in our relationship. So explain this one. This is your point.
Yeah. So I think this is important that. I think because we now value our time, because we value these businesses we're building, because we value this life we're building, that we no longer have attachments because we're quote unquote supposed to have them. Like, just because I grew up with someone doesn't mean they deserve my time and attention anymore. And that sounds super mercenary, but it's, I find it not even just that. It's easy the ones that are negative, right? The ones that complain about everything, complain about their job, and complain about the economy, and complain about the president and all that kind of good stuff. Like that's easy to turn them off after time. Those just kind of die over time.
Yeah.
But the friends or family that you love and you have love for, but it's hard having these conversations, and you want to. We're tribal. We want to talk to people that kind of get it, that we don't have to explain everything to, that we don't get that weird disapproving look about when we say, I'm living in the Philippines building a company, and, well, what do you mean you're building? You're online, what does that mean? Well, I do this. Well, I still don't understand what that means. So I think that we get a little more aggressive and mercenary about surrounding ourselves with people who are quote unquote believers. I think that scares them even more, because then it looks almost cultish, right? It looks almost like, they're just kind of throwing off all these old relationships, and that's scary. They quit their job, they're not friends with Bob anymore, and they've been friends with Bob for 10 years, and that's even more scary to people, right?
So that's related to our number 3 point, which is we can be totalitarian in our views. So this is sort of the fundamental question that I was asking myself, which is, this idea of multiplicity, or, if certain religions, once you believe them, you can't allow for other religious beliefs in. Like they're totalitarian. It's like once you buy it, you're in, and it's hard to accept other views. And I find myself feeling this way. So it's difficult to talk life and business strategy with people who haven't drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak, because they're not in control. And it can be humiliating. Well, that's the tension, right? Yeah. It's like, wait, you can do something about this, right? You know that, right? You don't, it's like sunk cost fallacy. Like they feel like they can't hop on to another.
And we don't help them either, right? Because we've become a little sanctimonious about this stuff too. Like, we have drank the Kool-Aid, we do believe. And I think it starts from a place of goodness most of the time. It's like, hey, you don't have to be on the hamster wheel anymore. Like, you don't have to go get a mortgage for a house you really can't afford because that's what you believe, or, it's the most important investment you make. You don't have to do that. But they've bought in so deep that it becomes a point of conflict because they have invested too much in this belief set. And we were liking a religion before, not that it's right or wrong, but if someone's an atheist and someone's a devout Christian, there just comes a point where there is no good conversation to have because they're not seeing eye to eye.
So there's something different though, which is that there's a sunk cost to it, which is like, I've been on this path for so long. Like, I've been selling, I was talking to a guy, sold medical equipment. I've been selling this equipment for 10 years now. I'm at the top of the company. I've got a mortgage on a lake in Tahoe, this and that. And it's kind of at that point where it's like you show them the better opportunity or the more sensible opportunity, which is represented by our beliefs, path to true wealth, path to time, path to all this. And they look at that and say, well, that's going to take me 5 to 10 years.
I'm going to have to start over.
And you know what the answer is from our perspective? Yes.
Yeah.
You must. And that's, and that's the totalitarian part, is that we do believe that. We believe that the doctor should start over, and that makes conversations awkward.
It does. Well, it's the whole...
Well, now let me take that back. I don't believe that doctors should start over.
I'm not so sure. So I think there's some people...
there are doctors in the DC.
Well, yeah, and there's the doctor in Thailand, I forget her name right, and her and her husband, they're doing like medical things over the internet. That's awesome. Right?
Yes.
So I'm not saying don't throw away your Harvard medical degree. That's ridiculous. That's your skill set. I talk about building a skill and then selling a skill. You've got the skill set. Don't become you're going to start making websites for a living.
Yes.
But find a way to take that skill set you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and tens of years to build.
Absolutely.
And find new ways to get out.
People are certainly willing to pay for healthcare.
Right. Absolutely. But I think the other problem here is that
don't be a slave to your institution and then come home at night and call some 35-year-old kid who runs your portfolio who's got no money himself. Right. That's the kind of situation that
he's making his money on the transaction, not on actually giving you any good advice either. So, but also I think that this is the problem, and is that yes, you're going to have to start over, and yes, it's going to be hard, and people don't want to accept that. It's the whole losing weight thing, right? It's it took me 20 years to get fat. But I'm not going to get skinny in 2 days, right? So yes, it means I've got to eat less and I've got to exercise more, and that's hard work. And every day I'm only on day 4 of this or day 10 of this, and it's hard, but it's value. That's what it's the same with business. Yes, it's going to be hard. You rose the corporate ranks. You got this skill set. You have a resume. All these wonderful things, and a lot of that's not going to translate into you making money for yourself.
Yeah.
And so you got to start over, and you've got to learn again. You've got to put yourself in a state of learning, and you've got to be the noob, and you've got to be around people that you are quote unquote smarter than or more ambitious than or whatever, that are doing better than you because they've been doing it longer. But okay, you learn from them. You do the work, and you move on. And again, I think the other thing is that you don't have. It's not an and or. It can be a during, right? So you're doing your current thing while you're figuring something else out. Now, don't burn the ships. Yeah. Don't sell the house and move into your car. Nothing like that. So.
All right. So the final point, the little bit of difficulty, and I think Matt talked about this in his letter, is that I don't know if you've noticed this, but I feel like I used to be really sarcastic and ironic, and that now I've become very earnest. Do you see something there that can be a little bit of a tension? Like, I had this experience where I went to a tweet up in San Diego, and I don't remember exactly how it went down, but someone asked me what I did, and I told them exactly what I did,
right.
And they thought I was a total jerk.
Right.
And
it's funny, I looked myself.
I just don't have that kind of ironic detachment from it anymore, And I
think that's. It is. It's. I'm going back to
people look at. I know people come to Tropical MBA and they're like, "That's so earnest. It's so douchey. It's so
well, no. So I'd say earnest and douchey are different. I think people think it's
fair enough. It's douchey and earnest.
Right? But you are a douchebag. The people think it's douchey. Like, oh, that's fairy dust. That's why it's douchey, right? This guy that's the guy that Justin showed me the other day. Your hater, whatever that guy is. The craziness, which obviously he hasn't read anything, and he's taking one line, taking it out of context. But I think this is the thing. Like, I notice myself. I have a dark sense of humor, as you know, and I think I'm a pretty funny guy, but I'm not as mean as I used to be. Like, when I used to be in the corporate thing, I was mean. I mean, I would cut you to the bone, you know. Now I think earnest is a great word. Like, I will talk to people and I really care more about their business and I want to have that conversation. It's not that I've become some, granola eating hippie or something like that. It's just that I love people that are taking this challenging path and are willing to buck off society's norms and say, hey, I'm going to try this. And the more people in the tribe, the better. And so I think that earnestness comes out. It's real. It's, I love seeing Dave Huss. I love the fact that Dave and I kind of got into this thing about the same time, and kind of our paths are kind of similar right now. And we both kind of had this huge growth over the last 2-3 years, because I know there's other people that are on the same time that are gone now. They're back in the job. They've left. They tried it, didn't work. They went back to the job. And so he and I share something that I don't share with a lot of other people. So like Dave will always get a lot more of my time than other people. And I really care about it, where, maybe 2 years ago I'd make fun of Dave for something. Now I'm just like, oh no, you don't understand. Dave's a baller, right? Dave's on his way. Dave's going to kill it one day, right? So I think that just comes from, I don't know. I don't know if it's the scales fall off your eyes and you realize that, it's a lot of, for me, I think it was a lot of me, I was like over adjusting. Like, I was unhappy about things, so I didn't, I was a bully, so I took it out on other people, right? Where now I'm pretty happy with where my life is. And I mean, I've got a long way to go. I don't have wealth yet, but I'm on that path.
It's like it's maybe the symptom of finally being in control, and it humbles you in a weird. On the one hand, it's like a lot of things. It's like, you kind of, on the surface, if people just glance at you, you might look arrogant, but there's a more fundamental humility in operation, because whatever situation you're in, you're a big part of having defined that. Yeah,
and I think also, I think that's a great point. I think the other thing is, and this gets kind of frou-frou, but I don't mean it that way. It's you changed. I've changed. Like, I come from enterprise software where you sold these licenses to customers, where really, you kind of oversold stuff that didn't really work, but this real scarcity mindset, like, like either I'm going to win this or my competitor's going to win it. That's all there is to it, right? To realizing that it is an abundance mindset, realizing that there is more than enough opportunity for everybody. And that sounds so frou-frou hippie to people that are in that scarcity mindset, but it's absolutely true. Now you just have to change your idea. So yes, if we're all going to try to sell white house paint, then maybe there's a limited market for white house paint, right? But maybe I'm going to teach you how to apply white house paint, and I'm going to teach you how to mix white house paint. I'm going to teach you how to make your own homemade white. I mean, like, the market itself is huge, right? Yes. And you just find new ways to approach that market, and that's what's different to me. It's not, a zero-sum game of either in order for me to win, you have to lose.
I mean, it's a fundamental belief about wealth. I keep coming back to Paul Graham's image of, if you see an old beat-up car on the side of the road and you polish it all weekend, you've just created thousands of dollars or $1,000 worth of wealth in the world. You didn't take anything from anybody. You just went out, elbow grease, more wealth. We'd love to hear what you guys think about challenging relationships. We had a nice comment section on our last episode. I'd love to hear your challenges, what works with you, stuff that you've encountered. This is an interesting topic for me.
It is,
actually.
I feel a little.
By the way, tropicalmba.com/Y.
Nice /Y. I feel like
WHY, not the letter Y.
We danced around a little bit for like. I'm not sure we've actually helped Erik. I'm not sure that his parents would understand anything as good now as they should. I mean, I think we've helped him and we've laid out our points, but I think that the biggest problem is, does it really come from a point of understanding? So do we, if we're trying to justify what we're doing through a different lens, it's never going to happen, right? If it's really about why, like why have you made this decision? What have you done? And I think we've done a great job there of talking about, our fundamental core beliefs. I don't know. I feel like we've missed something there. Like, I think we've missed. I think we've missed success. I think that becomes, it's your friend, right? It's your family. It's there has to be some level of just, hey, believe in him because he's taking this path and he's doing it because he thinks this is the best way for him to build that wealth and that success. And I think, unfortunately, the proof is in the pudding. And so once Erik has that great success, this conversation kind of becomes moot, right? It kind of becomes like, hey, you know what? You were right, we were wrong, right? This is awesome. And I'm not sure that goes away until they're right. I was joking with you before. I'm 41 years old, and my parents worry about me again. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't worry about me in my 30s because I was doing the corporate thing, right? I was making more money than them, and everything was awesome, and flying them, having these crazy expensive dinners and all the rest of it. And now the last couple of years, I've gone off that and do that, so now they're worried about me again. That's just a really weird dynamic, being a grown-ass man and have your parents worry about you. But it's getting less and less as the business is growing. They're starting to say, oh, there's something real here, right? There's something real. I think that just, you got to plug away. If you're having these problems, if your family doesn't get what you do, you definitely have them try to listen to this and listen to two sanctimonious pricks talk about how wonderful our community is. But, try to get to understand. At the end of the day, if they don't understand, don't go all Amway about it. But they don't understand, you can't let that discourage you. You just got to do it, and you come back one day, and it's never a, hey, I told you so, look how much money I made last year. But it's that great line from Boiler Room. You watch Boiler Room movie?
Of course.
Okay. It's a great line from Boiler Room about, your parents don't understand what you do. Your parents complain about what you're doing now. F them. See what they say when you pay their Lexus payment. You know what I'm saying? So there's some value in that, right? I mean, like the validation comes when they say, hey, you've actually built something sustainable and real, and you're living a life, and you're happy, and you're traveling.
And I had that chip on my shoulder too. I want to give my parents a killer retirement. That's part of what motivates me.
Me too.
And I want them to see that, yes, you made the right decision. So I love that. I love that grit. TropicalMBA.com/why. Thank you, Damian Thompson from Linchpin.net. Marketing automation is your game. If you're interested in that stuff, head on over there and click the big, atrociously large orange button. And while you're at it, go make a cold call.
Go make a cold call.
All right, Damian. Thank you so much, brother.
No worries, man.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Tropical MBA podcast. You can go to tropicalmba.com, get access to hundreds of back episodes and all kinds of other goodies. Load up your iPod. That is the cheapest way to fly business class on your next international flight. We will see you next Thursday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.